Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
So, you think you want to retire? Let's find out if you can.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money. The WorryFree Retirement, with your host, award-winning annuity expert and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
And now it's time for Tony in the Trenches.
Well, normally on the Worry-Free Retirement, we never start with a Tony in the Trenches, but today, September 18th, 2018, I think this question from a client of Tony Walker Financial is going to really set the stage for today's topic, can you retire sooner than you think? Here it is. It's from Steve in Louisville. He says, Tony, my wife and I both work, and after all these years are really starting to wear down. If you can come up with any reason why we, look at this, why we cannot retire now, emphasis on the word now, please let us know as soon as possible. Thanks, Steve. Well, this is a retirement planning show, folks, so let's define retirement. Here's, to me, the best definition. It's simply to withdraw from one's position or occupation, or one to conclude one's working or professional career. Now, retirement and retirement planning, boy, you're hearing more and more about this than ever before. That's because most people who work today don't really have any kind of retirement plan. Take my granddad, for instance. Generations ago, when he retired in 1978 after working 43 years for Bell South, he didn't need a retirement plan. He had his good old pension plan and his Social Security, plus back then you didn't need a lot of money to live. I can think about our cable bills and cell phone bills and internet bills. You know, back then, my granddad incidentally was named Bill. You know what Bill had? An antenna perched up on his roof that got 3 channels. I mean, that was just one example. He didn't need a lot of income. Today, though, you know, pensions are basically gone, and instead you're out there left with the daunting task of trying to figure out how much to deal with the tax tumor on your 401k, when to take Social Security, taxes on your Social Security. What about investments? Do you keep investing in the stock market, or do you take your winnings off the table and play it safe? It goes on and on and on. Don't believe me? Gina in our office, it's funny, Gina turned 50 recently, and she said, Tony, what's the deal? Since turning 50, I'm getting bombarded with these free dinner seminar invitations wanting to talk to me about retirement. And I said, Gina, you're in the wheelhouse, baby. I said, you know what? Over the next 30 years, they're estimating 80 million people are going to retire, and the financial world knows this, and they know people nearing retirement have 401ks they need to deal with. Now, I don't have a problem with dinner seminars, and I think there's probably a lot of great people out there hosting these. But here's the problem, and here's what we're going to talk about today. Number one, are they credentialed to really help you make the most important decision of your life, and that's when to retire? Did you realize, this is kind of a scary thought, did you realize that in the state of Kentucky and the state of Indiana, if I have an insurance license, it takes about 6 to 8 weeks to get one of these, I can actually host a dinner seminar and I can pitch products and act like I know what I'm talking about. Scary stuff. So here's what I would always say to people. If you've been to any of these dinner seminars, that's fine. Go talk to these folks. But you better get a second opinion from somebody like us who actually works in the financial trenches. It'd kind of be like this. Let's imagine you're going to a doctor and the doctor notices you're having some major heart issues. You're not going to assume that the doctor is going to deal with the heart issues. He's probably going to refer you to a heart specialist, right? So you get referred to a heart specialist, and here's one heart specialist that's done maybe 1 or 2 open heart surgeries in case you need one of those thrown in. And here's another heart specialist who's been doing it 30 years and has done 3,000 open heart surgeries. Which one are you going to choose with possibly the most important decision you'll ever make as regards to your health? more than likely, you're going to say, I'm going to go with the person that's done 3,000. I don't want to go with the rookie over there and risk my situation on somebody that may not have seen all there is to see about doing heart surgeries. Well, retirement planning, folks, is no different. In fact, if you're going to retire sooner than you think, there's a huge adjustment that you're going to have to go through to think through what I call people at work versus capital at work. See, right now you're working. You're making money. You're working hard. You can always work longer. Whatever you got to do to make things work at home. But then all of a sudden you're going to retire. See, it's a whole new ball game because now all of the money you've accumulated, all the taxes you're going to have to be thinking about, all the fees that you're now going to have to concern yourself with, you're going to have a game plan for putting that capital to work for you. And it's not easy. In fact, I interviewed a young couple the other day in our studios here in Louisville, and they had recently retired earlier than they thought. And I asked them the biggest adjustment they've noticed about retirement when it comes to their money. And here's what they had to say.
And Greg, you had talked, how has it been the transition of both of you being home full time? And share with our audience, obviously you all love each other to death, but what have you kind of discovered now that you're both together so often? What can you share with the audience?
Well, you can be together too much, and there's times that we are together too much. So, we try to promote each other to be able to go do stuff, go out with friends, go have coffee, go play golf.
What's been the transition financially in your mind
Right.
being retired?
That's been a challenge for us a little bit, just because with Greg's job, he could work overtime. So when we were doing different things, if we needed extra income, he could work extra, that sort of thing. And just for us being adjusting ourselves to more of a fixed income, I guess we always had a fixed income, but it was a little bit false because he could work overtime. And so that's been a challenge for us, and just refiguring, okay, you've got this amount of money, maybe we're spending too much here, we need to cut back here. And so I still feel like, I've been retired a little over a year. He just retired in February, so we're still new at it, but it's great.
Good. No regrets.
No regrets, no.
Pretty interesting stuff. Here's what they're basically saying. Tony, before we retired, we just kind of made things work. We would work more. My husband would work overtime. Now, all of a sudden, we realize we've got to have a little more discipline in our finances. We need more of a game plan because we've got to have this capital at work, and we also want to do things we want to do. We don't want to have to go back to work. Well, folks, that's our specialty right there. That's our wheelhouse. We're really good at helping people figure out when to retire, and then when they do retire, how are you going to make this work? Well, let me share with you. When I come back, I'm going to be asking you 4 key questions. These are questions that I've learned in doing this for over 34 years that savers must ask themselves before they enter into retirement. Some really good stuff coming up. You're watching the WorryFree Retirement. I'll be right back. Annuities. Some people love them and some people hate them. Regardless of how you feel about annuities, one thing's for sure, annuities are the only financial product that can guarantee an income you can never outlive. I'm Tony Walker, and regardless of whether you're thinking about buying an annuity or you have a current annuity that you would like me to review, log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Since 9/11, we've written over 2,500 annuities, and we can help you by getting started now.
Those must be comfortable shoes. I bet you could walk all day in shoes like that and not feel a thing. I wish I had shoes like that.
My feet hurt.
Well, maybe that's you. You don't know how to really summarize your life's work, but you've got the following statement, just like this young lady on the park bench. My feet hurt. And here's a newsflash, folks. There's no magical age to retirement. This whole thing of retiring at 65, that started way back when, back in the 30s, when a bunch of politicians got together and started the Social Security system, picked 65 as the magical age because they didn't think anybody lived that long. And here we are, fast forward, people living into their 80s and 90s and close to 100 even. So there is no magical age. So the question is, no pun intended here, but are your feet starting to hurt? Are you getting tired of what you're doing? Are you maybe not enjoying your job? You know, I meet with people all the time, and they'll say, Tony, I used to love what I do, and things just aren't the same now, and I want to know if I can retire now. I've had people retire at 55, 58, 60, 62, 65, 70. I've had people keep working, people that love what they do and they don't want to stop working. In fact, people say, well, what about you, Tony? When are you going to retire? And I would say, as long as I enjoy what I do and I keep helping as many people as I can help, folks, I'm not going anywhere. In fact, as evidence of the amount of people that we work with and that we enjoy helping, recently we hosted 2 client events here in the Louisville, Kentucky area. Now, they were for our clients from all over Kentucky and Indiana, but we chose 2 different venues. The first night, we rented out the Belle of Louisville, had close to 400 people. Here's some footage of that event. Just had a great event. In fact, there's yours truly, after everybody had deboarded the boat, if that's such a word. But anyway, they'd left the boat, and there was about 15 people and the band sitting there dancing around, and I got up there and sang a little bit. I wasn't going to sing for 400 people. 15, it was a little safer. Had a lot of fun. Okay, and then that same week, we had a real nice venue at the Churchill Downs, the opening day of Churchill Downs. We sponsored the race. In fact, here's me and the staff. We had pictured with the winning horse and the jockey. That was a lot of fun. Real cool event. But look at all these people. I had a lady come up to me during the event at Churchill Downs, and she goes, Tony, are these all your people, as she put it? And I said, yes, ma'am, these are all our clients. What I didn't tell her is, ma'am, this is only about 1/5 of our clients. So the question might be, how in the world, Tony, can you meet, I've met with all those people individually, by the way, how in the world can you take care of that many savers? What have you put in place after all these years that allows you to see so many people, and at the same time, this wonderful staff you've got, take care of these people? Well, folks, the reason we can do that is we have a process. It's called the WorryFree Retirement. And in this process, what I've learned over the past 34 years, we'll talk more about this process in a second, but there's been 4 key questions that everybody should ask themselves before jumping in to the retirement fray. And here they are. First of all, you've got to ask the following. Number 1, are you sick and tired of working? Listen closely. Or are you sick and tired of your job? You see, work is a great thing. I love to work, and some of you may be ready to retire, don't get me wrong, but make sure it's not just your job. You know, many of you, and some of you will come in and retire, and 2 or 3 years later I talk to you again, you go, you know what, I'm back at work, I'm doing this, and I'm enjoying this, or I'm working part-time. So be sure before you just rush out and try to retire, ask yourself that question. Are you sick and tired of work, or are you sick and tired of your specific job? Number 2, people say, you're always talking about that death thing, Tony. I bet you're getting ready to get into that. Well, yeah, I am, and here's the point. Have you come to the term, or come to the fact that time's a-wasting? You ever heard that saying, time's a-wasting? Well, what it means is, folks, this stuff here on earth ain't going on forever. There's going to be a point in time where either you're going to die, or you're going to get to a point where you can't use and enjoy this money. And many of you have been duped into thinking you don't have enough money, or you've been duped into thinking that there's going to be all this wicked inflation down the road and you're not going to have enough, and what if the stock market crashes? Folks, you're getting older. You need to think about retiring as soon as you can. I got a gentleman that came in last night. He said, Tony, I'm making good money. I want to hang on 3 more years. I feel like I need to work 3 more years. But, guess what he said? But I've got some kids from out of state that want us to move and hang out with them, you know. Again, he's 67. I looked at him and I said, would you rather work or be home with your kids and grandkids and spend some time with them? He said, well, to be honest, I'd rather be there. And I said, so why aren't you? Well, he didn't know if he could. Well, let's find out. See how easy it is? Let's try to do the things you want to do while you can. Boy, this is one of my favorite, and I think this is the biggie. Before you retire, and before you put your trust in somebody to tell you you can retire early, is this person truly a seasoned retirement specialist with a proven track record and knowledge in the retirement planning field? And are they credentialed to even give you this kind of input? I met a gentleman the other day, and he came in, real nice fella. He said, hey, I'm just kind of kicking the tires here. I'm meeting with several advisors, and I'm thinking about retiring in the next couple of years. I said, great, appreciate you coming by. I said, by the way, who are you talking to? And he named some people. And one of the persons he named was this guy that's on TV all the time advertising. And he's got a great slogan, actually. He says something like, we only make money when you make money, or something like that. It's a great slogan, great marketing theme. And I said, oh, that's cool. I've never heard more about this guy's work. How is this going to work if you meet with him? He said, well, it's interesting. I called the number. They sent me some information. And a guy from out of state drove down and met with me and my wife. And I said, oh, great. He met with you in person? I said, so that's going to be your advisor if you work with him? He goes, well, no, not necessarily. This guy's called a sales associate. And I said, well, what's the sales associate do? And he said, well, the sales associate apparently makes sure we're qualified to work with them. They say we are. I've already been in touch with a retirement guy out on the West Coast by phone. I said, well, wait a minute. You mean you ain't going to meet this guy in person? Well, no, we've talked by phone, and we're going to have another phone conversation, and I've got my wife involved. And I said, what'd she think about all this? And he kind of said, well, that's funny you ask. She said, I'm just going to skip the next phone call. You handle it. I said, let me ask you something, partner. Something happens to you, and you've got this advisor whom you've never met in person 1,000 miles away. Who's your wife going to turn to? And he said, well, I guess this fella. And I said, the same fella she doesn't even want to talk to over the phone? You know, see, he hasn't thought about this. Generally, folks, and this is the way of our household. In any household, generally you have one person that tends to handle the finances, another person that relies on that person. In my household, I take care of all the money. And my wife could care less about it. She trusts me with the money. However, I've got it set up in such a way that she's going to know what she's going to have. Our office is going to step in to make sure she follows the game plan, and she trusts in the process. See, many of you don't have a process. You don't have anybody there that lays out a game plan that lasts as long as you do, or more importantly, if something happens to you, your spouse or your children can take on that same game plan without a lot of expense. So that's what we do. So which leads to question number 4. Is the retirement specialist local to you? Can you meet with them face to face whenever you want? And secondly, does this retirement specialist have a team of professionals on staff that can help meet the changes, listen to me, the changes that will come your way? My dad used to always say, nothing stays the same. And you know what? He was so right about that. You think you've got your plans laid out, you're 65, 70. Here's one thing I can bet. You can write this down. Things will change. So this is not a one-size-fits-all. You don't just throw this thing in there in a drawer and lock it up and think nothing's going to change. You have to have a game plan, but more importantly, that retirement specialist better have a staff that's in place to help you meet those needs. That's why I have on staff someone who specializes in Social Security planning. I have a staff member that through our Charles Schwab platform, which incidentally people say, I thought you just did annuities. What's this Charles Schwab stuff? Folks, I've been a registered investment advisor longer than most people have been in business. In fact, since restarting our Charles Schwab platform, that's like the mutual funds and ETFs and stocks, we started this program up in April of last year. We already have over 750 accounts in that program with over $54 million already moved into that platform. If you're looking for a local specialist that's also going to oversee your investments and your annuities, that's what we do. So take advantage of our process. Take advantage of meeting with me in person. Now here's what's going to happen. If you say, yeah, Tony, I would like to meet with you. What's involved in this? Is there a cost? Are you going to strong arm me into buying products? How's all this going to play out? That's the best part. You can do it one of two ways. Let's say you go to the website. That's simple. You just go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Now when there, you're going to click on the Let's Get Started button. When that button is clicked, there's going to be some confidential information that goes to our offices. You'll be contacted, and we're going to set up a convenient time to meet at either our Bowling Green, Kentucky office at 2451 Industrial Drive or our brand new offices at Shelbyville Road. It's just down from Oxmoor Mall, okay? And again, yes, you will meet with me in person. I'm going to oversee your planning. So at the first meeting, we meet for about 30 minutes. All we're going to do is I'm going to sit down. I promise you I won't talk this much. I do have high verbal needs, folks. That's why I can crank out these TV shows like this. But I'm not going to talk a lot, but I'm going to ask a lot of questions, and I'm going to look at your personal situation. What I'll do then, we'll set up a second appointment, usually 2 to 3 weeks out. And when you come in for that second appointment, here's the best part. You get a written game plan that you're going to be able to take and study. I can't emphasize this enough, folks. If you are talking with somebody that claims to be a retirement specialist and they are not going to give you a written game plan, or here's the worst part, they're going to ask you to move over all your money before they show you anything, my advice, grab your wallet, hightail it out of there as quickly as you can, folks, because that is not someone that is working in your best interest. A true fiduciary like us, what we're going to do is we're going to make sure you understand everything. We're going to make sure it's all laid out, and we're going to make sure we've answered as many questions as we can before you ever invest money with us. Then you take that information and you basically say, I'm willing to move forward. I want to do this. I don't want to do that. This is your plan, folks. You can pick and choose what you'd like us to handle for you. We implement that. We do everything. If you want to roll over a 401k, we make those phone calls for you. If we want to move money over from an existing brokerage account, we go get the money. We don't put you between a rock and the hard place. We handle all the details. Our staff is really good at this, folks, and we're going to make this easy for you. That's what the Worry-Free Retirement is all about, is making things easy. And for the past 34 years, we've been able to do that. Now, when we talk about who are we going to work with, working with local people, putting the responsibility of somebody that's got the wisdom and understanding to truly be able to help you make one of the most important decisions of your life, we've got to turn to the Bible. Because the Bible's got something very interesting to say. In fact, we're going to hear from Jesus himself about this whole notion of working with somebody local. He does have something to say about that. I got to get me another cup of coffee. I'll be right back. Let's face it, the last thing you want in retirement is to be full of life and flat broke. I'm Tony Walker, and for the past 33 years, I've made it my life's mission to make certain that my clients don't go broke in retirement by providing mailbox money for life. Let me show you how easy it is to be worry-free in retirement by creating a guaranteed income you can never outlive. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started today.
Worried about running out of money in retirement? For a limited time, 5-time author and retirement specialist Tony Walker is making available his latest book, Mailbox Money for Life. For your free copy, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
All right, welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement, folks. We're having a good time here today, and we're hoping that whether you're retired or not, let me say this. You might be sitting there saying, Tony, I'm not planning on retiring, but I recently got laid off. I've got a 401k I need to do something with, or my plant's closing, or I got some money I really need to invest, or I got a bunch of money languishing in the bank, or I retired 10 years ago. Can you help me? Absolutely. And while the show today is geared towards those who are thinking about retiring sooner than they planned on, we are here to help you regardless of what age, whether you're 50 or 70 or 75, it doesn't matter. If you have retirement planning questions, we can help. There's an interesting bit of scripture found in Matthew 13:53. Now in 53, Jesus has just concluded sharing many of his parables with some nearby folks in a neighboring town there. And we slide on down to verse 54. Very interesting, and it says, "And coming to his hometown, he began teaching them," that's the people there, "in their synagogue, so that they became astonished and said, 'Where did this man get this wisdom and this miraculous power?'" Okay, so we're setting the stage here. Jesus is a hometown boy, right? He's gone out. Everybody else outside of his hometown is amazed at his miraculous teaching. He comes back home. He shares the same teaching, but what do the people at home say? Let's look at verse 55. They ask, "Is this not the carpenter's son? Is this not his mother and Mary and his brothers James and Joseph and Simon and Judas?" What they're saying is, wait a minute, we know this guy and all these people. Who does he think he is? That's really what they're saying. In other words, does he really know anything about God's Word? And for goodness sakes, look at where he came from. That's what they're saying. Now, in verse 57, interesting how Jesus responds. He says, "A prophet is not without honor except in his hometown and in his own household." And listen listen what he says, he did not do any miracles from that point on in that town because of their unbelief. During our recent client event, I invited my mother to attend. Now, my mother, who lives in Lexington, has never seen our newly remodeled offices over on Shelbyville Road. She has never been to one of my client events. And after doing all this stuff all day long, seeing the office, meeting the staff, going out to the downs and seeing all these people and just what was going on there, she looked at me and kind of pulled me aside and she said, "My gosh, Tony, how did you do all this? And again, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I looked at her and I said, Mom, you know what? I love you, but how in the world, you're probably thinking, Mom, could some snotty-nosed kid who was raised in a lower middle class home in Lexington, Kentucky, have all these people believing in what we are all about, which is helping savers worry less about money. And then I kind of thought about this line, a prophet is not without honor except in his hometown and his own household. And again, folks, I am not perfect. I'm nowhere close to that. But what I'm trying to say is, just because someone is nearby, don't always negate the fact that they may have more wisdom than you think. You know, many of you are running to people on the West Coast or wherever you're going thinking those people have better answers than people who may be right in your own backyard. I mean, let's think about this. We have over 2,000 clients. When it comes to annuities, you know, we have written over 2,500 annuities. I speak all over the country on annuities. I have trained individual advisors in the proper use of annuities. I've written 5 books. We have the Annuity Decision Guide. I meet with people one-on-one in person, so I get to learn from all these savers and then share firsthand knowledge with you about what it's really going to be like in retirement. So my question is, you've got somebody right in your own backyard. I'm willing to meet with you at no cost or obligation, and I'm sitting there saying, why wouldn't you meet with me? If you're retired or thinking about retiring soon, let me encourage you to think about this. Set up an appointment, come in to meet. Again, all we're going to do at that first meeting is just find out about you. You're going to bring in all your information. I thought about this. Here's the worst case scenario. Guess what happens if after we meet? You're going to have a written game plan. I'll guarantee you're going to have a better working knowledge of what you've got, even if you don't work with us. You know what I found in doing this so long? Sometimes Connie will buzz me, let's say in the Louisville office, and say, hey, Tony, do you remember so-and-so? And I'll say, well, Connie, quite frankly, I don't. Who is that? And we said, well, I looked up in the computer. 5 years ago, you met with this person. I said, oh, really? Well, that's cool. What's going on? Well, they've called. They're getting ready to retire. They want to meet with you again. And folks, that's probably the greatest compliment somebody could pay us. And also, I think it's a tribute to how we treat people. We're not going to strong-arm people. We're not going to make you do something you're not wanting to do, and we're not going to drive you crazy. All we're here to do is serve the saver and make sure that you have a game plan that you can rely on, not only now, but long into the future. So again, take advantage of that. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, or you can even call us now 24/7. That phone number is 877-499-9255. Again, call us 24 hours a day if you have a quick question or want to talk. It's 877-499-9255. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's program. I've certainly enjoyed bringing you this information. And you remember, between now and next week, if all else fails, you be worry-free. Make it a good one.
Thank you for watching the Worry-Free Retirement with Tony Walker. If you need a safe and simple game plan for your retirement, log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and schedule a free, no-obligation meeting with Tony.